Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. This is episode 249. My guest is Kaedrich Olsen. We're going to be talking about the paranormal, shadow work, and AI. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Kaedrich, he is a renowned author, speaker, spiritual teacher, and paranormal expert with over 30 years of experience helping others navigate the unseen realms. Known for his extraordinary life lived between worlds, Kaedrich brings deep wisdom and practical guidance to those ready to explore the mysteries of the afterlife, shadow work, and ancient spiritual traditions. From growing up in a haunted house to training in seance and channeling at a spiritualist church, Kaedrich's path has always been intertwined with the supernatural. His lifelong connection with advanced spiritual beings, known as the Whisperers, gives him unparalleled insight into the spiritual dimensions, the structure of the afterlife, and how to work with spirits and entities of all kinds. You can find out more from his website, kaedrich.kartra.com/page/home. The link will be in the description below. All of the links will be featured below, and I want you to check me out, subscribe to my channels, leave me a comment, like my videos, and please do share my content with your friends. And for those of you who would like to support my work and receive my perks, I also have YouTube membership. So become a member and be part of our online family. So without further ado, I'm bring on our guest, Kaedrich. So nice to see you. Finally get to meet you, the man, the myth, the legend. I'm so happy that you're here today. Welcome.
Me too. Thank you very much. I'm very excited to meet you, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. This is going to be great.
I noticed that a lot of people shy away from shadow work. I myself would not be in the position I'm in today if I hadn't done a lot of shadow work. And it seems like it's never ending layers coming off that onion all the time. Parts of me that I didn't want to see, I didn't want to recognize. I didn't want to deal with. It was really much easier just to go, oh, I'm all in the light and the love all the time. And then I found out, no, not so much. That's all true, except when it's not. I wondered if you want to speak a little bit about the importance of shadow work.
Absolutely. It is an important and essential part of our spiritual growth. It is so necessary because you're right, shadow work is uncomfortable. No one really wants to do it, but we do want to do it. It's because it's uncomfortable. It gets us to
Mhm.
acknowledge the things that we're ashamed of, the things we're afraid of, the things that maybe we don't like about ourselves. And it's really hard sometimes because we love to blame the world. We love to blame others for things that are going on in our world, why we're uncomfortable, why we're upset, why we're feeling whatever we're feeling. But when we take that look inward, it exposes all those deep, dark, ugly things that we stuff down. Whereas maybe if we do, the peace, love, and light approach, it feels good. We feel the love, we feel the joy, we start to learn to love ourselves, which is great. But it's also bypassing, because what I've seen time and time again, and why I got into shadow work, is people are on their path of spiritual growth, they're on their path of conscious evolution, but they run into a block and they run into the same patterns over and over and over again. And no matter how much they peace, love, and light it, they can't seem to break through that ceiling. And what's
Mhm.
worse is they'll get guilt about it. They'll feel a moment of jealousy. They'll feel a moment of anger. They'll express their anger, and they tell themselves, well, the anger and jealousy and all of that aggression is just lower level energies. It must mean I'm not doing my spiritual work. I'm not advancing. There's a
Mhm.
shadow right there, feeling guilty about what is a normal, natural emotion to feel. And so you stuff it down and you push it away. But the thing that we don't realize a lot of the time is the things that we keep hidden, the stuff that we push down, that we
Mhm.
repress, that we don't want to acknowledge. It will find a way to express itself. It'll come out in ways that you don't want it to. Even in manifestation, you're trying to manifest $100, but you keep getting $10 over and over and over again. It's because there's something in your inner world that says, I'm not worth $100. I don't really
Mm.
that $100. I don't want that. I want to live for the struggle. I want to feel the scarcity. So shadow work invites us to go in and bring the light of awareness and acceptance to the darker places inside of us. Shadow work really is light work, even though we call it shadow
Mhm.
work, even though it's scary, even though it's uncomfortable. It really is bringing that light of awareness and acceptance to those things deep inside. And when you realize that this part of you that doesn't feel that it's worth $100, that it doesn't value that $100, you find out where it comes from, what it's about, how it's actually been protecting you. Because here's the secret about shadow work is every one of those deep dark things that you're afraid of, that you're ashamed of, that you don't want to acknowledge is actually helping you in some way. And it really did help you in your life in some way. It's just now it's a hindrance, it's a pattern, it's a block. And so when you start to acknowledge those deeper dark things, they turn into what they really are. You find your authenticity. You find out what your purpose is in this life and what you're supposed to be doing. You clear that stuff out. Now you're trying to manifest $100 and you get $1,000.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
much better. It's what I consider the difference between operant magic versus ascendant magic.
mhm,
Operant magic is what a lot of people do. They light the candles, the incense, they call the deities, they do the chanting and the dancing so they can get the manifestation of their desire. Whereas ascendant magic is you're doing your shadow work, you're doing your spiritual work, you're doing both. You clear those
mhm,
out, and then the synchronicities start to happen. The people, the circumstances, the situations are drawn to you automatically that are in alignment with your authenticity, with your purpose, and you don't have to chase them. You don't have to chase anything. It just comes to you naturally
mhm.
because it was always supposed to be there. And shadow work opens that pathway so that you can start living an authentic, purpose driven life.
Mhm, mhm. I hear you on that. I found that, um, well, I'm from a very dysfunctional family, as most of us probably are. And I found out that when I wasn't doing shadow work, I was projecting my undesirable attributes onto other people. And, one day I just stopped. This is so quite a while ago. I just stopped and I said to myself, I can't stand that woman over there. Why can't I stand her? It's not, I don't even hardly know her. I got really nothing to hold against her, but I really don't like her. And then I realized it was because she had attributes that I was taught were shameful. For instance, she speaks really loud and she's over friendly with people she doesn't know, things like that. I tend to do the same thing. And I went, oh my God, I am projecting everything I don't like about myself onto this other woman. It really taught me a lesson. So from then on, and for many years, when I get a feeling I don't like someone, now it's different if my like my gut is telling me be careful of this person. They may not have my best interest at heart. That's a little different. But for me to just um look at what it is I don't like about that person, and is it an intuitive hit or is it my own projection? So that I wanted to say. And the other thing too is, with my spiritual awakening, which is quite a few years ago now, I started listening to my internal dialogue. I was not conscious of it before. And now I'm always aware of my internal dialogue and pretty much aware of thoughts that are holding me back and all kinds of things like that. And so I think shadow work is really important. I think you're right too. It is part of light work as well, because until and I'm going to tell you what I have trouble with that maybe you can speak to is I have trouble forgiving myself. I've done so many stupid things, as a parent, as a daughter, as a friend. and I can't get over how I was even in that position I've done all these stupid things. And so it's really hard for me to forgive myself and let it go. It's kind of like I get flashbacks of that and it makes me feel guilty. And I know that is not helping my spiritual progress.
I think a lot of that for a lot of people originates in school. When
Mm,
we are called upon to answer a question in front of the class and we get it wrong, not only do the other kids laugh at us, but the teacher might scold us. When we're at
mm-hmm,
home trying to do our homework and our parents understand it and get it, but we're having a tough time struggling with it, and then they are overly critical to us about how we're responding to that. And so it
mm-hmm,
teaches us at a very formative age, if I make a mistake, I'm going to get in trouble. There's something wrong with me. And then we carry that forward into adulthood in that over self criticism and perfectionism, even in procrastination. It shows up because I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to show up as any problem. The counter to that is if we look at mistakes as stepping stones for growing, for learning, we learn how not to do something. And this is a kind of a thing for everyone to think about yourself too. Is the best way to learn something is to suck at it, is to be
mm,
terrible at it, is to make that a part of the process. Every single business that is a success to this day, the people who started those businesses had multiple failed businesses in front of them. Every single business that is a success story was built on failure. In fact, every success in this world has been built on mistakes and failure. And if we can teach ourselves and we can teach our kids, great, you made a mistake. What can you learn from that mistake? How do you own that mistake? And what are you going to do to fix it? We realize that that helps us grow, that helps us boost. A real world example of this is back in my corporate days when I would be like managing in the corporation, different departments. I would purposefully see how I could break the system or make the system a mistake or make a fault. So that way I could learn how to fix it. And by learning how to fix it, I better understood the system. I better understood the process. I better understood so many other things. And so my success came from being willing to make those mistakes, to being willing to make those failures, owning that, and going, great, what do I do to fix it? And that boosted my acceleration to success in a major way. So if we can go back and when we make those mistakes and we want to be self-critical, and I still have moments where I can get pretty harsh on myself, like I forget something at the
mm-hmm,
grocery store, I'm like, because I'm too busy focused on the outcome of what it is to make that mistake. But if
mm-hmm,
we can go back and go, okay, this is a mistake I made. What do I do to make sure that doesn't happen in the future? And by the way, an important and integral step of spiritual growth, of self advancement, is to mess it up. This is an important part of shadow work. Maybe we are triggered by somebody's behavior, loud talking over and over again. We do our shadow work, and the next few people that we hear talking loudly, we're like, okay, that's just the way they talk. But then there's that one person that talks loudly, and I'm like, oh, would you just shut up? And we're like, great. That's an integral part of the process is you go 2 3 steps forward, a step back, 2 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And
mm-hmm,
so making those mistakes are so essential for that progress forward. And when we can learn that and we can sort of treat ourselves like a child, really like a child, going, cool, you made that mistake. What can you learn from it? What can you do about it now? Instead of, oh, you messed up. Now you're bad and you need to be punished. We go, great,
mm.
treat it like that child. And we treat ourselves that way. Things start to shift dramatically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I've done that myself, where this is embarrassing to admit, but I may as well just admit it because it's kind of how I roll. Um, I never really grew up. Even when I had children and I was raising children, I raised them to a certain point, and then they were more mature than me. I didn't grow up. I don't know why. I just didn't grow up. I wanted to, but I didn't know how. And eventually, I decided that I would create an internal parent. So what I did was I created me, but an older, a little bit wiser, a little bit smarter, more savvy version of myself that would comfort and guide my younger self, if that makes sense. And
Completely.
that higher level of myself is very loving. I've had spiritual experiences too, Kaedrich, much like what you have had. I've had a lot actually of contact over the years and a bit of a paranormal life. And I have found my guides are always so loving and so kind and so gentle with me. I use that kind of like a template to create a grown up version of me. And then once I did that, I found it quite a bit easier to do shadow work because I was more forgiving, loving, patient with myself. And I also, sorry for rambling on, but I also think that, we're not even really taught the properly what it means to love. And I needed to learn to love myself before I could learn to love other people. That includes being patient with myself, having some self control, some delayed gratification, um, learning how to control my temper, learning how to read my body sensations. So I knew when I was getting close to losing my temper, so I knew how to back it back down or whatever that would take. And I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on all of my high strangeness there?
It's not strangeness at all. In fact, with my clients and my students, one of the things I teach them is to observe a future version of themselves living in
Mm-hmm.
the ideal state. And it's not
Mm,
necessarily what they're doing for a living, but it's what their demeanor is, how they present themselves to the world and how the world sees them. And through that observation, they create that that future version of themselves in that ideal state. Now
mm,
that version of them exists in that place, and it has a vested interest in you taking the actions to create that version of you in the future. So it will share with you all the secrets. It'll share with you the coming pitfalls. It'll share with you the details that you need to know so that you can start to become that person by being that person today. And the shadow work
mhm,
comes in because what is that inner part of you that says, I don't deserve it? I'm not worthy of it. I can't have that. That's not for me. Great. There's your shadow work. There's the blocks. Talk to that future version of yourself. What did I do to overcome that? What mistakes do I make and what can I learn from those mistakes? And that future self will absolutely help you to do that. And I have to apologize. My brain just temporarily let go of what the second thing you were talking about was.
mhm.
Because we
This
were
is
talking about
embarrassing because I talk about so many things, and because my brain is all over the place,
mine
I've moved
too,
on
mine
too.
too.
So I think it was about well, maybe self-forgiveness, being gentle with myself, the way my higher guides are so gentle with me. They just give me a beautiful
Yes,
example on how I could be.
that was it. This is a critical part of shadow work. You're talking about listening to your inner dialogue and your inner world. If your inner mind is saying, I'm going to be happy when this happens, ick, I don't like my body, things just aren't good now. I want things to be this way. I want things to be that way. You're really telling your subconscious mind, I don't like the way things are right now. I don't like myself. I don't like the way my body is. And so the subconscious mind says, well, why should I even bother then? Why do I even
Mm,
care? And so when you can get into that self-parenting role, when you can get into that self-care, that self-nurture, and have the gratitude for what exists now, what part of your
mhm,
body looks great, what part of your home is wonderful, what part of your career and income is going well for you, where is your health doing well? And you focus your attention on that, then the subconscious mind goes, well, these things are pretty good. Yeah, let's see if we can't make things better. So it really comes down to how you're shifting your focus and where your focus is at, and it is that inner dialogue. It is that subconscious mind, and that shadow work will help you tap into, why do I keep saying when this happens, things are going to get better? Cool. Let's go into that. Let's unravel that. And then look at the gratitude for the way things are now, however they are right now. And then
mhm,
you start to get more of that, because the secret to all of this in the paranormal work, manifesting synchronicities, is similarities attract and perpetuate. And if you were focusing on the way things are bad and the things that you don't like and the things that you want to change, the universe goes, oh, you like those games of scarcity and challenge and ordeals? Cool. Let me give you more of that. But if you're focusing on the things that are going right and the things that you are grateful for and the things that you do like about yourself and your body, the universe goes, oh, you like those games? Great. Here's more of that for you then.
mhm, mhm. I'm curious to get your thoughts on definitions, semantics. Different people use the same words to mean very different things.
Yes.
Um, and I have written about and spoken about the difference between awakening or waking up and ascension. Now, what I believe, and please, I really would love to hear your thoughts, whether they're different or doesn't matter to me, it's all good. Um, I always looked at awakening as where we start to see that the world is not what we thought it was, our programming. Basically, I broke my programming quite young. And the problem with that is I didn't have anything to replace it. I tried religion, that didn't really work out so well for me in the long run. But awakening, I think, is realizing what's going on. And then I had to get over the shock and awe. And I'm still peeling off layers, especially when it comes to I'm in Canada, Canadian politics and all kinds of things. I'm still peeling off the layers of waking up more and more and going, oh my God, has it always been like that? It has, and really getting to the point where I'm not traumatized by it anymore. And then I go, okay, what do I want to do to become the change I want to see in my world? And that's where what I believe is ascension work comes in. So once I've woke up pretty well fully or close to fully, then I started doing my ascension work, which for me is learning how to love myself, all the things we're talking about on the program today. And I don't actually think that I'm just going to get sucked up to heaven or a mothership. I think ascension is about raising my frequency. That's what ascension means to me. Now that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing to other people, but I'm curious about your take on it, Kaedrich. What's your do you think ascension and awakening is the same thing? Are they different? Are they layers? What's your take on the whole thing?
I agree with you. I agree with you in all of that. Awakening is that moment where you realize there's more to the world than what you've perceived before, and that you can be more. And that awakening happens all the time. It's a continuous process. It's why it's okay to say good morning to everybody all the time, because you say good morning when you're awakening. But the way I kind of relate this is it's what I call the alpha and omega points. The alpha point is when something touched you, poked you, woke you up, helped you realize there was something more. And that something serves as a guide along that path towards that omega point. And along that way, that guide shows up different points of awakening, different moments of awakening. And you eventually realize that's your higher self. It was your higher
Yeah.
self that woke you up. And just like the future self, that higher self has a vested interest in you doing the work to get to that point of that omega point, but you still have free will. You can still say, nope,
Mhm.
not going to do it. I don't want to do this. I don't like it. Never mind. But that higher being is always there with you. When you reach that omega point is when you merge with higher being, when you become that ascended being. And even ascension is a growing process. It has its own awakening moments as well.
Mm.
And when I see people nearing an omega point, they wonder what happened to their higher self. Where did higher self go? Why am I not getting this guidance that I got before? Well, it's because you're merging with that. You're becoming that. And for a lot of people, though, the omega point happens after the death of the body, and sometimes in a future lifetime. Sometimes it
Mhm.
does happen during lifetime. But like I said, it still has those moments of awakening within the ascension process. But here's a very important part that people may not realize is in my rules of paranormal interaction, and this applies to this as well, is that we are I throw away that notion that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. We are spiritual and physical beings having a dynamic experience. What affects the physical affects the spiritual. What affects the spiritual affects the physical. It goes
Mhm.
both ways. So even if you reach that omega point, even if you reach that moment of ascension, you still have to drive a car. You still have to go to work. You still have to have income. You're still in a physical body. You still have a brainstem and a limbic system, which means you're going to get angry, jealous, upset. You're going to get hurt. There are times when the physical world needs more of your attention, energy, and resources. So you're going to be drawn into that one, and you're going to feel like, where did my spiritual connection go? Where's my spirituality? Well, that's just a moment to take the time to deal with the physical stuff, get the physical stuff back on solid footing, and then that spiritual always comes back. It's always there. You're always connected. You never lose it. It's just sometimes you have to refocus your resources on something physical. And so some people think they lost their abilities, they lost their connection, they lost their ascension, their spirituality. And it's like, no, it's just a temporary moment to refocus your attention and it will come back. It always does.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting you mentioned that. I go through what I call dry spells, where I may have a lot of paranormal or, contact. I used to sort of split my contact into different kinds of beings, like, for instance, a deceased loved one or an angelic. I don't anymore because I'm sort of more integrated with all of it now, and it's just I consider it all just my higher self. And what I find is that there are periods of time where it's like, where are you? Why don't I feel you near me? Why are you not talking to me? Well, they don't really talk, it's telepathy, but you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Why are you? I miss you so much. I feel so alone. I feel like I'm in a desert, in a wilderness. And then one day it came to me, the reason is because they're here when I need them, but then it's time for me, for them to sort of take the training wheels off my bicycle and let me learn how to ride. Does that make any sense to you, Kaedrich?
Complete sense, because no matter what our guides say to us, no matter what they do, we still have the choice to follow it or not follow it. And it doesn't mean anything if we aren't using it. They may give us some guidance, they may give us some pointers. For example, when I'm working with clients, I always call in my guides, the whisperers, and I call in their guides. Quite often, I'm having three-way conversations with
Mm-hmm.
their guides and my guides, and they may be going through a troubling time. They may be going through a difficult time. They're feeling disconnected. They don't know what to do. And their guides almost have a flippant attitude. They're like, yeah, isn't this great? What are you getting out of this? Isn't this awesome? This is the moment we've all been waiting for. And they're like, no, it's not. It's terrible. What am I supposed to do? And then they go, spoilers. We can't tell you. And when I've had a conversation with the whisperers, why are they not telling me? What's this information not coming? And they said, well, we can tell you, but if we did, you would take that information and you go, yeah, that's cool. That's great. Okay, nice. But it would be meaningless without the direct experience, without learning it for yourself. So when you go through those challenges, you go through those ordeals, you have a deep, innate understanding now of that information, and you can apply it to so many things going forward. Whereas if they just told you, it'd be like, cool, thanks for letting me know. Can we go on now? And it's like, well, you missed it. You missed that opportunity if you just get told rather than going through the experience and applying it for yourself.
Mhm. Mhm. I also noticed that lessons will come opportunities, let's just say opportunities for learning, they repeat in my life. So if I don't get it this time around, I don't have to feel so bad because it'll be back. And the same thing with really good ideas. The really good ones stick and they come back. And the ones that don't come back maybe don't matter so much. So it's really an interesting phenomenon. And I think, though, getting back to the beginning of our conversation, people need to feel worthy and of love and worthy of spiritual contact, worthy of all the things. We live in a world that's so dominated by punishment. If you do anything wrong, you're punished. You go to school and you make a mistake on your test, you're punished. You don't get to be the best. You don't even maybe get to be the second best. And it's not, I don't think it's the right way of looking at reality, which leads me to please feel free to answer anything I just spoke to. But
Yeah, I just
I'm
want to stop
also
in on that
anxious
one.
for
I want to.
us. Go
Oh, sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to do a quick jump in on there because we hear so many times that if you want to be loved, you have to first love yourself first.
Hmm.
And what if we challenge that and we say, if you want to be loved, well, then let yourself be loved by somebody else.
Hmm.
And then accept, just fully accept it with the assumption that you are loved by this person for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. Who cares? And when you can accept that you are loved by this other person, by your guides, by anything else, then you
Hmm.
can learn that, yes, I am capable of receiving love. I am worthy of this love. Therefore, I can love myself too. So sometimes we do need to let ourselves be loved before we can love ourselves.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's been a hard one for me because, I was raised in an environment where anything short of perfection was considered unacceptable. Well, that's the most stupidest thing in the world. First of all, what does perfect even mean? Like every different person would have a different idea of what that means. But lately, we've had something else come into the mix, and I'm hoping you have some words of wisdom about AI. I know personally of at least a half a dozen people who have completely given themselves over to believe everything AI says. It's my understanding that AI might be right only about 51% of the time. That's not very good at odds, eh? But they have gone completely insane. AI has told them that they're a higher spiritual being, and that other humans don't understand them because they're so highly evolved. I had one woman who was an administrator in quite a few groups on Facebook, and she banned me from everything. And so when one of the owners of the channel, I asked him, why have I been banned? He says, you're not banned. I says, yeah, I'm banned. He went on to find out what was going on, and she told him that AI had told her that I'm basically like the female Antichrist, and that
Oh,
I'm the one that's keeping the world from finding peace and all this other stuff. And I'm going, first of all, I know I don't have that kind of power. But anyway, besides that, I just thought, what do you have any words of wisdom? Because a lot of people are turning over their spirituality and their lives to AI. I personally, not so much. I use it for artwork, like for my thumbnails and backgrounds, because I'm not, I don't have the artistic whatever to do it that quickly. But besides that, I don't really trust AI, not in the state it's at now. Anyway, what are your thoughts, Kaedrich, about AI and spirituality?
AI is just a tool. The best way to think about AI right now as it exists with Chat GPT, with Gemini, with the various forms, is
Mhm,
it's really a really good word processor. That's all it does is it scans through all of the information that it's been taught, and it looks about how those words are supposed to go together. That's all it does.
mhm,
Is it just puts
mhm,
words together. Any meaning that we derive from those words being put together is on us. And this is a big issue that I have with spirituality, with technology, with a lot of things in this world, even the
mhm,
paranormal, is people not owning their own agency. They're
mhm,
externalizing agency. And what I mean by that is when I was growing up in the spiritualist church, we were part of the lessons that the spirits taught when they came through was kind of an anecdote of a lady who always consulted the spirits about everything. No matter what it was, what should I be eating for dinner? She connected with spirit. Is it time for me to use the restroom? She connected with spirit. She externalized her agency completely. When
mhm,
GPS came into our cars and people were driving using GPS, I love GPS. I get lost. I have really hard time with directions and linear concepts, so I use
mhm,
GPS. But how many people drove into a lake or drove into a building or drove off road and wrecked their car with the excuse, well, GPS told me to turn here?
mhm,
Because they weren't using their own agency. They were externalizing it. In the same way with spirits, if when maybe there's a negative entity in the room, maybe there's some negative energies and people are put themselves in a helpless position saying, I can't do anything. This spirit is attacking me. It's making me feel afraid. It's making me feel angry. It's making me think these thoughts. And I reverse that and I say, no, no, no. You are feeling those feelings. You are thinking those thoughts. Own those feelings. Own those thoughts. You reclaim your agency. And when you own something, you can do anything with it that you want to. So that means you get to change the way you think. You get to change the way you feel. And those thoughts, those feelings become an energy which repels that negativity. So own
mhm,
that. Same way with AI. If you go to AI to ask it for business advice, for spiritual advice, whatnot, use your critical thinking. Think about it because AI can only reproduce, and it's reproducing, it's not creating, it's not thinking, it's not generating anything, it's reproducing information that already exists out there. So that's where you go back and you think about it. Does this make sense? Is this real? Is this true? Like one of my rules of paranormal interaction is test and validate everything. That applies to
Mhm.
AI. AI tells you something, but where did that come from? Why does it think that? Go back to your own agency. You can use that as information reference, but still check the information. If it tells you such and such a thing happened on such and such a date, go do the research. It's
Mhm.
goes back to even like Wikipedia. So many people would go to Wikipedia for answers thinking that they had all the right answers. Well, no. Uh, Wikipedia is a good resource for finding resources. So if Wikipedia
Mhm.
tells you something, look in the bibliography. What does it tell you? Go look up the resources, validate that information, take back your agency, take back your critical thought. Don't let AI run everything. You can't, because it's you. Ultimately, it's you that get to make the decision on what you're doing, not AI, not GPS, not spirit.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I would agree with that. Um, it is, sometimes it's quite perplexing to be a human being on this world right now and, to manage everything, mood and, just what I want to focus my time on and my energy on and what I want to do. It's actually, in some ways, there's never been a more exciting time to be alive. I feel like we're going through huge shifts in consciousness, and I don't think the world in 5 years is going to look much the way it does today. And I'm kind of excited about it. And I know there's lots of things to be afraid of, and there's lots of things that we can rejoice over. And but I don't really 100% know what's going to happen in the future. But I know I need to be true to myself, and I need to focus on what's important for me. So, what's important for me is that I be the kind of person that I would like to add to the the balance of creation and the world. Like, for instance, I believe that we're meant to be stewards of the earth. And, I know this is going to sound stupid, but, for instance, we're out in the woods and we see an animal and it's got a thorn in its paw, or it's hurt itself, or it's got its head stuck on something. We go in and we help it, right? And we help each other. And wow, what a beautiful world that could be. I used to be religious, and when I was a member of different congregations, I saw a certain amount of that, which I really liked. But the downside was the dogma and me always being in trouble for not being perfect enough. It was almost like repeat of the family I grew up in. And I got to the point where I went, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I thought, I don't really know what happens to me when I die, but I know one thing for sure. If I live my life the best I can, if I really put in the effort, I know that I can have peace when I transition. And that's really, really important to me, especially as I get older. And so I agree with you, Ike. I don't think AI is the devil, and I don't think it's the savior. But I know one thing: I'm getting old, and if I don't use it, I lose it, and I don't want to lose it. So I want to do a lot of the thinking on my own and be imperfectly authentic rather than more perfectly fake, if that makes any sense at all. So I'm wondering now. I want to give you some space, Kaedrich, to talk to the audience about what is close to your heart. In this transition time from 2025 to 2026, what's on your mind? What's on your heart? And what do you want to share with the audience so that, well, I know you're a good person and you want us all to do well. So, what's your message for humanity?
Embrace the change, embrace it, because no matter what it is, if it's ugly, if it's awful, we're going to learn from it. We're going to grow from
Mm-hmm.
it. And if it's beautiful and wonderful, okay, great. We're going to keep growing. But remember, the universe, reality is a reflection of itself in all ways. So I hear people talking about timelines, shifting timelines. We're on
Mm-hmm.
this timeline leading to the destruction of humanity. I disagree. I don't think we are, because if we look at every time we have one of those doomsday preachers telling us, oh, the world
Mm-hmm.
is coming to an end on a certain day, and that day comes and goes, they go back and redo their calculations. And they're like, oh, nope, it's coming up on this day, and that day comes and goes. And that's been happening for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Well, the
Mhm.
thing to keep in mind is maybe there's hundreds of thousands of people in the Western world believing that there is going to be a doomsday coming. Well, there's
Mhm.
8 trillion people on this planet. So we have hundreds of thousands versus trillions of people that want the sun to come up tomorrow, that want their lives to go on. And as we are a collectively creative species, we create with our collective unconscious. We human beings have the superpower to create through our observation. And
Mhm.
those trillions of people want the world to go on. So it will. It will continue to go on. But it comes down to alignment. If we're looking at all of the bad news going on in the media, if we're looking at all of the bad news on social media, we have to remember that the reason why the news does what it does is because fear sells. They're getting you to watch the
Mhm.
next commercial. When we're on social media, fear sells. People are doing that so they get their boost in clout, so that they get more clicks, that they get more likes, that they get more subscribers. They're doing that for themselves, and it's so easy to get drawn. For example, let's look at Three Eye Atlas when it came
Mhm.
in. Every everybody was, not everybody, of course, but there was a big hubbub about this is a reptilian invasion, that it's full of reptilian beings coming to get us. Here it comes, here it comes. This is it. Well, it's passing through. It's just coming through. It's passing. It's a very unusual comet. It's very interesting to watch. Yes, it has changed directions. Yes, it's changed colors. It's fascinating, but it's still just a comet. It's still just going to
Mhm.
pass out of our solar system and move on to another one. But that fear that so many people got embroiled in, that zeitgeist, that's what's keeping us sort of locked into a negative timeline. Is we're just like we were saying before, I really hate the way I look, I hate the way I feel, I don't like myself, so why should I change? Well, I really hate the way the world is, I really hate all this, oh, here's this fear stuff, so why should we change? So if we
Mhm.
look at the things that are working in the world, if we look at the things that are wonderful about the world, the things that we like about ourselves, instead of sort of the world changing, you be in the world how you want the world to be. So
Mhm.
you start to create your world that you want for you. And it's okay that it's selfish. It really is okay that it feels selfish. You do your spiritual work for you in a way that makes sense to you. And you start to be in the world what makes sense for you. Because if we go back to those 8 trillion people on this planet, they all want a peaceful world. They all want a happy, thriving family. We can't agree on how we're going to get there, but we all
Mhm.
want the same thing. So start being in the world how you want the world to be. And remember,
Mhm.
you become by being. So just start being that way in little steps, little bits. And then the world around you will start changing. You'll start aligning with other people that have those same visions, those same ideas, and that community will start growing. I'm a huge proponent of creating and not destroying. We look
Mhm.
so much about, well, we need to get rid of the government, we need to get rid of the economy, we need to get rid of these organizations, we have to get rid of those institutions. And my question to that is, great, what are you going to replace it with?
Mhm.
Well, no, start creating now. And if you create a system, if you create an institution, an organization, or whatever that is working, the
Mhm.
old one will fall away through attrition without trying to destroy it. So
I
create.
agree.
Yeah, don't destroy anything. Just keep creating. Start with yourself. Let it feel selfish because that's how it works. We're 8 trillion people improving the world one person at a time. Why should you be any different?
Mhm. Mhm. I was thinking about that the other day. So as I mentioned, I live in Canada and I try not to watch too many podcasts that are political, but I get sucked into it probably daily a little bit. And I started thinking, everybody's sharing all these worst case scenarios and getting all upset about it. And I thought, why don't we just spend half an hour, 20 minutes a day visualizing how we would like things to be in Canada? Visualizing us living peacefully, visualizing us getting along, visualizing us having new technology so we don't have to worry about reliance on any other country. There are so many things we could be doing. And for every industry that leaves Canada, there's probably a dozen new industries that nobody's thinking of that we could easily start, and we could easily be providing jobs, and we could easily be making this country better. But as long as we're focusing on all the doom and the gloom, And what's wrong with it, we are, I guess, like what you were saying, we're being destroyers. Instead, why not be creators? Why not think about what it is that we want to do? And that's why I started this show, the Quantum Guide Show, so I could have people on and meet people from all over the world that have very interesting takes on things, that have inspirational ways of looking at things, and it makes me happy. So that's why I do that. But why aren't people just spend 20 minutes a day visualizing what we can agree on? So, what can we agree on? We all would like to live in paradise. Now, some might be more tropical, some might be more, up north where I am, but we could all agree on paradise. So, let's all start, creating a world that is our idea of paradise. There's so many things we could do, but we get sucked in so easily by the media. I don't know. Do you have any words of wisdom on that? How to, I don't know. Is that self-regulation? Is that what that would come under? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of all of that, and it's really complex. There's no single answer to it. I think the first thing that we have to let go of is a simple problem with a simple answer. None of this is simple. If we look at crime, if we look at poverty, if we look at um, hunger in the world, it's not as simple as throw money at it. It's not as simple as just make this happen. There are
Mhm,
a million factors that lead into the situation that we're in. And so we have to be willing to look at those millions of factors. And this is what actually invites us to do collective shadow work because we do want that ideal state. We can observe that ideal state and we are creating it through that observation of visualizing that, of experiencing that ideal state. But what's in the way? What's stopping us? At one time here in the US, people started saying, oh, racism is over. It's gone. It's gone. It's going away. We need to start getting rid of some of these laws. But then there were some changes that happened. And wow, did the racism come out of the woodwork? And to me, I'm like, cool, there's our collective shadow work that we were starting to push that thing down. We were not addressing these issues. Same
mhm,
with all of the things that we're facing. So sometimes here, this is the tricky part of it. Just like we can do our own shadow work and we sometimes get hung up on the, oh, I hate myself. I can't stand this. I can't stand this about me. And then we pull ourselves down and shifting our mind into what we do want. Same way with the world. We look at the things on the
mhm,
news and the social media, and I'm saying don't ignore it. Don't block it out because if you do, that's just like repressing shadows. That's pushing it down. Acknowledge that it's there. Acknowledge that
mhm,
there's a problem that's causing that. I really think what we're seeing in social media and the news is rather of a symptom, not the cause of something. So look
mhm,
at what that cause is. And remember, it's not a single smoking gun, it's a complex system of things to look at. And so when we start to address those issues at the social level, starting with ourselves, starting with the people around us, I work a lot with men and men's studies and men's spirituality. And men have all of these different ways that we've been taught, like suppress our emotions. Don't be strong. Don't be emotional. Like emotion is weak and vulnerability is weak. Well, really showing your emotion and vulnerability is a strength. And so
mhm,
when I help a man to learn to connect with their emotions, to share their vulnerability, then they go hang out with their friends, and their friends still maybe believe that. And somebody shares something personal and they all start laughing. I put the onus on that man that's been doing his work to say, hey, guys, stop. He's really expressing something important. I know we're all feeling that in some way. Address that, call it out, but not in an aggressive way. You guys are being stupid. You should just shut up. But, invite them to realize that they're feeling that way too, and that
mhm,
comes from their upbringing, that comes from their social dynamics, that comes from a myriad of factors as well. So this is our invitation to do the collective shadow work individually, at home, community, all of that, and build it out. So we don't want to ignore the problems, but we also don't want to feel helpless. We want to reclaim our personal agency and then
mhm,
that shadow work not only on ourselves but at the collective level as well.
mhm, mhm. That's very, very good advice. Um, It's very, very good advice. So we not only want to look at personal shadow work, we want to look at collective shadow work. I would even say that families have their own shadow work. I think one of the toughest things I've been doing in the last 30 years is stopping intergenerational dysfunction. So the stuff my grandparents did to my parents, and they did it to us, and then I'm going, no, no, that is not love. That is not how we treat each other. So I have two grown-up offspring, children. They're in their early 40s, and it's very hard to watch them make choices for their life and keep my mouth shut, not tell them you should be doing it like this or you should be doing it like that. Let them make mistakes, and instead of holding it over them, um, be here so that I can help in any way to remedy the situation. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. So whether it's their health choices, how they raise their children, everything, just loving them unconditionally. I got to tell you, it's a big job. And I'm constantly monitoring the way I'm even thinking about them, seeing them as capable. And so, I mean, not everybody out there has children, but I'm just using it from my own experience and my own. But it's really amazing to see how those bad patterns dissolve, and then they seem to be gone from the timeline. Kaedrich, they seem to be gone from the timeline, which gets me very, very excited. I don't know, do you have any thoughts about that?
That is another important part of shadow work, and that's something that's in one of my shadow work programs, and I help students will learn and clients will learn is ancestral shadow work, ancestral soul wound healing, because it's more than just
Mm,
epigenetics. It's
mm-hmm,
soul contracts, it's soul families that continue together. And again, it's shadow work. It's like, ooh, what is this pattern that shows up? How is it showing up? What's it doing? And
mm-hmm,
how am I contributing to that? And then when you work on your own shadow work, then you extend that through the family line. It's very interesting. I have seen family dynamics shift within weeks when somebody starts doing ancestral shadow work.
yep,
There was a lady that was not looking forward to her son's graduation because there were the in-laws that were going to be there and her
mm-hmm,
own parents there, and there was just all sorts of negative dynamics throughout that. So she did her own shadow work. She did the ancestral shadow work. She went to the graduation and everybody was amicable. She's like, that's never happened ever
mm-hmm,
before. And I'm like, yep, that's the power of ancestral shadow work. It affects right now, and it
mm-hmm,
prevents it from continuing into future generations because you've done the work now. And again, it's for yourself. You're we can't change anybody. We cannot. If
mm-hmm,
they don't want to change, they're not going to. But if you're
mm-hmm.
doing that work for yourself for ways that make sense for you, it really actually does affect everybody else.
It
So,
does. I've
yeah,
seen it.
it's amazing stuff.
It is. It really is. It's miraculous. Now, one somebody in the chat asked if you have a YouTube channel. I believe you do.
I
Do
do
you want
indeed.
to tell people about your offerings, where people can find you? Now, the links are in the description below, but some people will be listening to this on an audio podcast. Some people will be watching a replay. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you? And you were mentioning, is it an ebook
Yep.
you just, yeah, tell us all about everything, because people are very excited to have gotten to meet you here in the show today, and they're really excited about it. I know they want to look you up.
Excellent. Thank you. Yep. My name is a key that unlocks many doors. So if you go to Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, just type in my name. Even if you go to Gaia.com, I'm on a lot of videos, a lot of programs on Gaia.com. So just type in my name. And I've been able to fix my website. So my URL for my website is Kaedrich.com. Believe it or not, it's that
Okay.
simple nowadays. Just Kaedrich.com, you'll get there. And if you go to my webpage, Kaedrich.com, I've got a new ebook. It's 51 pages that is called Coexisting with the Paranormal. That's where I share with you the 10 rules of paranormal interaction. I share with you 5 ways of protecting yourself, your home, your family. And I give you 3 methods of communicating with spirit. There's stories in there about how people have learned to use these techniques, the problems that they had before learning how to use them, And the thing is this book was written from my lifetime of experience. I grew up around the paranormal, literally, and I can literally say I was born into the paranormal. It's been an active part of my 54 years of life. And so
Mhm,
this book has been written from my direct experiences, from the things that I've learned from personal hands-on experience working with the paranormal. And I'm sharing that with you so that you don't have to go through the trials and tribulations, the mistakes that I made. It's right there in that book, and even if you pay a few bucks more, you can get the audio version of it so you can listen to me and my voice, So it's deep, meditative, and relaxing. And you can treat the book like
mhm,
a meditation to better integrate the lessons. But yeah, if you go to Kaedrich.com, if you go to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Gaia.com, just type in my name, you'll find all of that stuff. I got lots of videos on YouTube, lots of videos on Instagram. And I'm always, always, always churning out information because I've got my purpose in this life is a teacher. And I
mhm.
found that the more I'm teaching, the more I'm bringing this information to the world, the more synchronous my life becomes. So I love teaching. I love sharing. So you're going to find a lot of information out there.
Awesome. Really awesome. Everybody in the live chat has just everybody's expressed the gratitude for you being here and speaking boldly about, we don't really have anywhere else to go. When I was going through my whole awakening and beginning my ascension, and trust me, I'm nowhere near finished. It's an ongoing,
Yes, it
ongoing,
is. Me too.
ongoing job. But there was really no one to turn to. And when I went to, secular people to find out what was going on, then I was told that I was probably mentally ill. And then when I went to the different religions and stuff to try to find out what was going on, then I was told I was evil. Oh, you don't want to be messing with that stuff. No, no, no. You open yourself up to the devil and all that. And fortunately, as time went by, I realized that all those people are living in fear. They have no idea. And then, of course, I had my own angelic and ET experiences that were extremely positive and helped me even more so to plan the template for my own life. I want to live the way they live. I want to be the way they are because it works, it's functional. Um, when we operate in the love harmonic, when we treat each other with dignity and respect, wow, you don't need a whole bunch of laws and rules because you would not steal from your neighbor. You would not hurt anybody. You wouldn't cheat with somebody else's husband. You just wouldn't do any of those things. And your life becomes really peaceful and balanced and it's so wonderful. And so that's what motivates me and gives me the drive to keep trying, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying to do better. And then I also have to balance that out with my shadow work of forgiving myself, not telling myself that I'm stupid. That's a bad habit I have every once in a while. I go, oh my God, Karen, how could you be so stupid? No, I'm not stupid. This was the best decision I could make with what I had at the time. So I'm really, really thrilled because so many people in the chat have really benefited from you being here today. Kaedrich, I appreciate you so much. I'm really thrilled that you came on the show. I'm hoping you'll come back in the new year and share some more with us. That would be really excellent. Not that you have to, but just letting you know you would be definitely on my list.
Thank
Um,
you. Absolutely.
so we're coming close to the end of the show. Just wondering if you have any other words of wisdom, anything you didn't have a chance to say that you wanted to, or anything that just comes up for you before we close out the show today.
You bet. Your experience that you just described about all of the religions and the secular communities is what
Mhm.
helped me to establish one of my favorite rules. The more you interact with the paranormal, the safer it gets. Because as you're starting to interact with the paranormal, you see it for what it really is, what it really does, and you start to dispel all of those fear-based narratives. You start to dispel all of those disbeliefs that are out there, and it creates what I call the believing seeing dynamic, where you believe it a little bit, then you see it. And once you see it, that reinforces that belief even more. And then that just goes back and forth to the point where you're like, well, of course, everything is spiritual. Everything is consciousness. Everything is connected. We're all there because you've seen it, you've experienced it, it can't be denied. And all of those stories just fall away. And when I love watching horror movies, they're still my favorite things to watch. I've watched them since I was a kid. My wife and I will sit down and watch every new horror movie that comes out, and we love it, but they get it wrong. They get all of that fear-based stuff wrong, and we can laugh at that, and we can kind of have a good time, suspend disbelief just while the show is on, and then we shake our heads, go, that is just so silly, because that's not how it works. And most people, their experience with the paranormal comes from the horror shows and the paranormal investigator shows that are all fear-based. But when they start interacting with the paranormal themselves, of course, it's scary at first because that's all the information they have. But the more they do that, the more they go, wait, this doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That's not how that works. That's not what that's like. That this doesn't happen. And then it turns into this beautiful, wonderful, awe-inspiring, joy-filled interaction that is permanent, that is just a normal, everyday thing. And so the paranormal is completely safe. It always has been safe. The only thing that is distorting it is just these fear-based narratives that come from people that have no experience with it. They're
Mm-hmm.
just regurgitating the same stories over and over with zero experience. Or if they do, it's a fear-based experience that is 99% of the time self-generated, and they don't understand that. So
Mm-hmm.
have fun with the paranormal, explore it, be a part of it, because it is a natural part of who you are. The paranormal is completely normal. The supernatural is natural. It is a natural part of our world, and it is your birthright to be able to connect with it and explore it. It's yours, always has been.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. I just could not have put it better. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you to everyone that came out for the live chat. Oh, and I wanted to mention again our very generous super sticker from, I'm trying to find it. Here it is, from Denise.
Thank
Denise,
you.
thank you so much. Absolutely. You do not have to donate. Of course, I really appreciate it. It helps me cover my expenses, but at the same time, I just wanted to give you a big shout out for that. Thank you so much for being such a kind supporter of the show. And for all of you who are listening on an audio podcast, we're part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. And so you're listening to me as part of that. And of course, all the replays. So we're going to be up everywhere. Kaedrich, thank you so very, very much. And I can't wait to have you back. If you have a really good, I don't know, solstice or whatever you celebrate, I wish you the very, very best, and we'll all be in touch and we'll all meet again very soon. So, oh, one more thing. I have an announcement. Sunday, for all of you in the live chat, Sunday is members and regulars day. So basically, I'm going to put the link in the chat. And those of you who want to come up stage and we can meet each other and hang out for an hour, and that's happening this Sunday. So I want to tell you that before I forget. Okay, I think let's just check, make sure. Yeah, fearlessly says, and don't forget Sunday. That's right. Awesome. Okay, everybody. Hope you have the best week ever. Kaedrich, again, sending you many blessings. Thank you so much for being here. And with all of that, we'll say bye-bye for now. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.